and a lot of the families that call us are literally Googling, going, who will help me at this minute? I don't know what I feel. I can't describe it really, but I know I don't feel me. We can be a family. Versus everyone goes, oh, so you're okay now, and they disappear completely. Yeah. So your support network drops, and the people that were in your corner have disappeared. But then it's going, but maybe I'm not okay now, and how do I say, could you come back?
Ngala acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional custodians of Australia and recognises their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging in the spirit of reconciliation. We acknowledge the importance of children being raised with connection to culture, community and family. Hi Hannah.
Hi Jen.
Welcome back. And today we're talking about the juggle and life after baby with lovely Penny. Welcome Penny. Thank you so much.
Good morning and thank you.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Ngala?
Absolutely. And thank you for this opportunity. First up, it's great to be here. I guess my career spanned over about 35 years in this parenting field in the perinatal space more recently. And my main focus in my current work is supporting parents in that first year of life, particularly in relation to their mental well-being and taking care of themselves and their baby.
Lovely.
So, yeah, that's me.
So your work centres around parents, their mental health in that first year. What are some of the common themes that come up regarding mental health and wellbeing?
Oh, there's so many. But probably one of the most common ones is, am I doing well enough as a parent? Am I good enough as a parent? Is my mental health going to affect my baby? That's such a huge one because people feel so guilty about how they're coping and what it's like for them and their baby. And I guess a big thing is that self-identity, like I'm now a parent. What does that look like? And that I'm not just me, I'm me and a baby now, or me and a family now. So there's so many changes for a family.
Yeah, there's a whole new sort of identity and family dynamic that has kind of shifted.
Totally. And with that comes so much new responsibility. And that's, I think, where we see parents feeling that anxiety about their mental health. And that may be that they were predisposed to that, so have had that experience before their baby came. And that might have meant that they had some help during pregnancy. However, it may be that this is a new thing, and that's what's prompted them to reach out for support because they don't know if what they're feeling is normal. Yeah. And it's a big adjustment for them as a family.
It can be scary too.
Very.
If you have never felt that way before and you don't have an answer or a name for it, and you don't even know who to reach out to.
No, absolutely. And a lot of the families that call us are literally Googling, going, who will help me at this minute? I don't know what I feel. I can't describe it really, but I know I don't feel me. And that can come about from lots of different reasons. That's maybe even from before baby arrived, or their birth, or their experiences postnatally initially that's now catching up with them that they haven't actually talked about with anyone. So it is scary, and that fear of losing self is a big thing, I think.
Yeah. And you mentioned as well that it can come about from lots of different ways. And what are some of those reasons that people can start to feel these things?
A pressure as a parent. I think that's one of the biggest things, as in being good enough and doing well enough. But I think a lot of unexplained things can happen for parents on their journey, and that's both parents in relation to whether this was a planned pregnancy or not. Have I had to finish work or not? Have I had a terrible birth experience versus, wow, that was actually okay, and now I'm actually shocked, actually that went okay. And what does that feel like now? Then the adjustment of initially having so much support. Yes. Everybody's throwing everything at them at the start, which sometimes we don't need. It's like, could you just give me a bit of space to get to know my baby and we can be a family? Versus everyone goes, oh, so you're okay now, and they disappear completely. Yeah. So your support network drops, and the people that were in your corner have disappeared. But then it's going, but maybe I'm not okay now, and how do I say, could you come back? Yeah. And that's sometimes one of the reasons parents will ring, because they'll say, should I be coping? Is something wrong with me that I can't manage one baby? Or even two, because we know lots of families have more than one. But it's the juggle of those big feelings that come with this new responsibility as a parent.
And what about, so we often think about the mother or the primary caregiver. What about the partner, or if there's a father involved? Does this happen to them as well?
Absolutely. Different ways, I think. And it's very much about the dynamic of the couple as well, because some parents can talk about that really openly with one another right from the start. So when baby's on their way, that's being talked about. But lots of parents, it's a shock. It's like suddenly we're 3 and life changes. And like I was saying about that initial time where the other partner's at home, whether that's parental leave or they do less hours for a little while or something like that, that support's there, and then suddenly it changes. And it's like those goalposts are changing. It's like a second parent might say, I love being involved in the care of this baby, but if you don't let me, how do I know where I fit too? So particularly our dads call quite a lot with that worry of, I want to do more but I don't know how to ask, or our FIFO partners that are working away and they're really missing out on that time with their baby when they go back to work, and they don't understand how to regulate those big feelings, and they don't want to upset their partner by going, I don't know what to do. I've never done this before either. Or they're like, what can I do? Like, how can I connect with my infant? So we talk about a lot of those ways you can do through FaceTime, through other social media platforms. So reading a story to your baby through FaceTime, however old they are, is still special. So you can do that. It's a beautiful way to connect.
Hearing
their voice.
Other parent is working away, away for that little baby to hear that parent's voice.
And we know that our little people hear that voice before they even arrive. So that common spoken tone is beautiful for our little people to hear. And I think that's also that reassurance for the parent that's left at home to go, you actually really care about us when you're away, and we're part of this together. And I think that's a really special thing. I've spoken to a lot of dads who've done that and gone, wow, that made such a difference to us as a family, because my baby remembers me. And, we know some of our partners are working away for up to 2 weeks, which is a really long time for our little people.
I think it's interesting that you brought up FIFO families as well, because it can be so hard for the parents to manage the care in terms of, we've got maybe mum staying home looking after everything for 2 weeks at a time. Dad flies in, and then it changes the whole dynamic. And that can take that's almost sometimes a week of adjustment. By the time you get into that rhythm, then dad's flying out again. And so I think there's a lot of pressure on both parents in that scenario to take care of this baby, but to manage their feelings and emotions in the same place, and that can lead to anxiety. And it's constant. So it's happening every time, and mum has to then adjust to dad flying out, and then has to adjust to dad coming back, and dad has to adjust to being away from his family, and then adjust to coming back and being part of it. And something we don't really talk about very much, of how hard that can be.
And the baby is in the middle. And I hear some parents talk about, I don't know that I want you to have our baby back. Like, I've had this baby to myself for 2 weeks, and now you want to do it all, and it's that like, or
the lack of trust.
And that building up those changes, because we know our infants change so quickly, don't they? So what you were doing 2 weeks ago to what we're doing today is different. So it can even be, oh no, we don't settle like that now, or I don't feed like that now. So it's that line of communication becomes even more important during that time away. But when we come home, I've spoken to mums and dads about saying, when the partner comes home, go and do something together and have that chat, whether it's a coffee or a walk at the park or something to just, we're back again, let's regroup. Now
what
these are the things
now?
that have happened. Absolutely. And also, we do appreciate that when they're away, they're working. They come back tired. We get that. But when you've been the lone parent for 2 weeks, that's
also very tired.
Extremely tiring, especially if you're feeding through the night and there's no one else at home. But I think it's then that divvying up of roles and responsibilities, so it's shared. And baby then sees you do that. And I think that's so important throughout, particularly that first year, that our little ones know how we work together. And that we are on the same page. And yes, we know there'll be days when you're not, but you can repair that.
And what about relationship changes? So we talked a bit about with partners, but even if you've got other children, how do those sort of dynamics impact a person's well-being and mental health.
Massively. And I think, we would hear even through our parenting live service, wouldn't we, where parents ring and say, the second baby's coming and I don't know how to do the toddler at the same time. So a lot of what we would hear is a little bit of guilt as well, as in like, how do I hold 2 children or more? Because we know that families have more than 2. How do I hold them in mind? But also not push the older child out. And I think that's something that a lot of families will do without real consideration for the other child of, this new baby came and changed my life, like the toddler's life, but now you're sending me away with grandma and that baby gets to stay at home with mum and dad. And that's really hard for our little toddlers to understand what that looks like. When they're really, really tiny and they haven't really noticed too much of a change because they might be going to daycare sometime, they might be going to grandma's anyway. But if suddenly this baby arrives and then I get moved out, what that feels like for the child. So you'll sometimes hear parents talk about that guilt of like, the older child's gone and I don't know how to deal with that. So I will also talk about share, like get this little person, the new one, to understand what separation and return looks like. And grandma might be able to have the little one while you go out and have toddler time. And sharing those responsibilities with family can be really helpful. But I think as well, when the baby's settled into a routine, during that time, the toddler's like poking the baby, as we know. We know. It's like, you worked really hard to get the baby to sleep. I'm going to go in now and wake it. And we know they do that. It's like, I'm supposed to be quiet now. Oh, no, I'm not.
I just found my voice.
I found my voice. But also we know that developmentally that's normal. But also developmentally, they're still growing. They're still changing, aren't they? So it's like, I'm not going to stop my development just because this baby came along. And that might be that I'm actually learning how to regulate my feelings anyway. And then you gave me a new baby. And I don't know what that means. So I think being able to be with your children on that journey and not rush them is one of the key things I would say. But in doing that is taking care of self. So that self-care becomes even more important. And we know that with worry comes anxiety, comes doubt, I'm not good enough, and all of those kind of things. So sometimes it's that initial rush of support disappears and then you're on your own, is saying, what do I need to regulate, to maintain? And it may be playgroup, it may be we go to the park every morning, it may be we ask grandma to do a regular day a week, So you actually start to create a lovely scaffold of support during this period when it does feel a bit overwhelming.
Because it's a lot of change and it is an increased stress.
It's massive. And then that's without even the worries of I might be going back to work or something might else happen in the family, because we know that during that first year of life so much can happen in the baby's life, developmentally for the other child as well. So it's giving consideration to that whole
family as a whole. I think also remembering I like to remind parents on the parenting line that as the main caregiver, they're actually the most important person in this scenario. Children are really important, but you're caring for those children. And if you're not able to cope and manage, then something needs to happen. And we need to support you because those children need you.
Totally.
It's a dyad.
It is, absolutely.
It is, and it's one that's not talked about.
No.
It's really not, and how important you are to you, but also to your little family. And you need to be well to do that.
Yes.
And there's the famous quote, there's never just a baby, it's a baby and someone. And if that someone is really struggling, then that someone needs some help.
And it's okay to ask for help.
I think that's a really hard thing for some people to do, particularly because society has kind of set parents up to be able to, you should be able to have it all, you should be able to manage it all. But actually, no, that's not the case at all. And people just suffer in silence, and it just it breaks my heart when I hear some of the stories.
Me too. And I think that's a key part of it, is that fear of saying I'm not okay, isn't it? Like I'm not coping. But if I say I'm not coping, what does that
what does that look like for me?
And we always talk, as I'm sure you guys do, is that it's a strength to say, I'm not doing okay at the moment. I would like a little bit of extra help, but I'm okay, but I'm not okay. So we do a lot of that, teasing that out, because what does that look like, feel like for every parent is different.
Yeah, and it's a strength to have that insight, to be able to say, I'm actually not okay. This is not what this is meant to be. But, we need a village.
Oh, we do. We do. And
doesn't really exist anymore.
No, and that's why services can create that connection, can't they? So like Parenting Line and the line I work for when we do that, like creating the new dots around them to connect to. And we have so many families in WA that are not from WA, that are from interstate or overseas, and they don't have those natural connections. And talking to parents who, and I've certainly experienced it because I obviously wasn't born in Australia, not having your family when you've just had a child is one of the hardest things to adjust to, because you just want your people that know you the best to be around you. And so that's a high number of our callers are mums who just say, I'm just alone. I miss my family and I don't know how to do this. And that then knocks their confidence and then their ability to see that they can actually do this.
It's a bit of a vicious cycle.
It is,
What if you've got someone calling on the line saying, I've got no family, what advice would you give that person?
First of all, I commend them for calling and saying I'm struggling. And then I start to understand what they need. Because we're all so different, aren't we, in what we want, and also clarify that they have actually let their family know they're struggling, because we know even though they're overseas or interstate, they can have other ways to communicate. And is there a possibility they can visit? Is there a chance that they can plan something to look forward to? Because I think that's a big thing when you're a parent. If you've got another thing to look for. It's like a holiday, isn't it, for us guys? Like, oh, yes. But then it's finding out who they've got already. So where does their partner fit in, if they have a partner? Where do their friends fit in? Do their friends even know that they're struggling at the moment? Because a lot of our parents will say, oh, they've got their own children, I don't want to add to them. Or they don't need to know about that, like they'll brush it off. Obviously, it depends on how old the baby is as well, and what we can connect them to, because we've got so many services in WA that are perinatal specific services that can build that confidence and that belief, I can do this. So that may be the first step. So if it's a teeny weeny baby, we've got services we can link them into for programs. But then looking at what is the actual root cause of the worry, and is it that there's actually an underlying struggle with mental health and we need to think about mental health services, or is it that they just miss their village? So it could be playgroups, it could be connecting back into their service that they had before, like their child health nurse, their GP, other community connections. And then we just create that scaffold. And because we have access to all the services across WA, we can pinpoint what's going to be a good fit for them. And then part of that process of checking on their mental health is there anything else that we need to think about, and other services that we need to pop in around you? And then holding the infant in mind, or the toddler in mind as well, is what's going to be fun for them to do, and how can we build that relationship? Because we know, like we were saying at the start, parents will have a lot of help at the first 6 weeks maybe, and then suddenly it disappears, and that's the bit that got them through. So now they're like, no, come back, but they don't know how to say come back.
And sometimes they don't even need that help at that time, they need it after.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the other part is obviously sharing what it feels like with those closest to you, so that they can help you do that too.
And how important, say, socialisation or social opportunities, community outings, as one piece of this puzzle?
Massive. They're massive, aren't they? Even just having fresh air, like getting out. I talk about that as being part of that mindfulness and self-care for the parent initially, because we know that fresh air is good for us. It's obviously, we're sun smart, we're sensible, and we're not going, go out in the middle of the day. Cook yourself and your baby. But it's about what did you do before is a key part of that. So if you were a Pilates person or an exercise person or a gym person, what did you do for you that helped your well-being? How can we get some of that back? back. So that's sometimes that shared responsibility between parents or family to allow that to happen. Or is it that you just love to take the dog for a walk, or you love to just go to the park? And in that, you can incorporate things for you and your baby to have enjoyment. So I talk about that mindfulness of that, how is my body going? So where is my feelings? Is it I have a headache? Is it that my shoulders are tense? Is it that I just need to get out of the house because I've looked at that washing up for like 6 hours and I can't do it, that kind of thing. But finding a way to navigate out. So we do out. And it might be that you and the dog used to do this on your own before, and the dog's been waiting for you at the front door going, are we going? Are we going? Get the pram out, get yourselves out, get doing that. But while you're out, see it, feel it, benefit from it from your mental health point of view. But you're also telling a story to your baby, So while you're going through the trees, oh, look at the birdie in the tree, and then that connects the conversation with your infant. So as your baby grows, they go, birdie. And as we develop, we become social beings together. But also by doing that, you see regular people, don't you? So they're doing the same thing. You go into a park, you're meeting the same people each time. And that creates that lovely connection into the community. And a lot of times parents who are isolated, that first play group is so scary. It's like everyone's going to ask me the question I don't want them to ask me, and how am I going to deal with that? But the more you do it, it's just breaking down those barriers for yourself. But your infant will take you there because they'll be like, hi, everyone. Or they won't. And that's then that baby that's the crying little person that you'll have your little village come round you and go, is there anything we can do? How can we support you? So from a relationship building form, mindfulness and mental health point of view, and child development, it's also good.
Yeah. I think that you mentioned as well, like what you did before. So I think knowing what made you before and trying to get a little bit of that back, and it may look a little bit different to what it was like before baby. But if we can get a little bit of that back, you're going to feel more human and less I'm just here to look after a baby, and more I'm actually still myself.
Totally.
Transformed a little.
Yes, absolutely. In a good way. And I think that's the thing we forget, the good bits, don't we? We talk about what went wrong, what wasn't okay. And that's not to say we shouldn't acknowledge those, because they're just as important. But I think it's then, how can we move forward together? How can I enjoy and remember what I used to love doing, and how can I do it differently now? And then sharing that, because, a lot of places are creche or child friendly now anyway, but there are things that you might actually want to do on your own. And see your friends on your own, and do those kind of things. So it's then looking at who are my people that can enable that to happen, and share it, because it's not about saying, oh, well, you go to the gym but I don't. It's like, well, you go to the gym and on these days I'll go here, but we share the care of our baby.
When you are out with your baby, sometimes unexpected things can happen. And that can add stress and worry, and maybe you might feel like people are looking at you. And is that something that comes up, almost some social anxiety around going out with the baby?
Yeah, and I think that's what stops them going out then, doesn't it? And then they become anxious, and then they don't go to groups, and they don't go to activities because they're worried a lot of times initially that their baby will cry. And I think one of the biggest things we can reassure people is babies do cry. Yeah, just because your friend's baby might not cry like your baby does, that doesn't mean that that's not normal for your baby. But also, communication is crying. It's how we say, I'm not okay, I need you.
It's the only way they can
communicate. Something's happening for me, I need you. But I think it's then breaking down the barriers of why that's happening. So is there something else, or is it purely this is new and scary and I don't want to do it because it's too scary, and finding little ways to do it, and whether that's that you ask a friend to go with you, or grandma or a relative or someone that can
go
just
somewhere very familiar.
Exactly. And do it one little bit at a time. You don't have to stay for the whole session either. And I think that's a pressure parents have, is like, I'm going to a playgroup, so I have to be there for 2 hours. You don't.
No.
It's like with toddlers, isn't it? Toddlers generally don't last 2 hours in anything. It's like, how on earth am I going to make that happen? So babies are the same, So it might be that you just go and say hi. And then you can't cope anymore at the moment, so you do go home.
Yes.
Or you might go for a bit longer the next time, and then the people around you go, we noticed you left last week. Are you okay? You know, so it's just gradually building up that confidence that you can do this. It's the same at the shops, isn't it? I mean, I don't know about you. I see women and dads with babies screaming in the aisles of the supermarket and just go, I'm so sorry you're having to deal with that.
Yeah.
You know, and is there anything you need? You know, I always want to,
I'm
the rescuer of the family.
Yeah. Your shopping list.
Yeah.
I'll do that for you. But it's being with, isn't it? So I think we talk about that a lot in mental health. Is like be with someone when they're struggling, and you're being with your infant while your infant is struggling.
Co-regulation.
So picking up, connecting. Doesn't matter if you're walking around the supermarket with your baby connected to you the whole time, and that's what they need, you know. Or you leave the trolley and you go home and you come back.
That exit plan.
Yes.
And
Exit
giving
plan.
yourself permission to
Yeah.
have the exit plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about how many trolleys randomly we see through the shops with stuff in them, that's probably what happened.
I've left groceries in the trolley and just been like aborting the mission.
I've said it to the lady at the front. I'm like, I'm sorry, I have to take this baby out of here. And I remember feeling that fear, particularly having my second baby. I had a toddler, 3-year-old, and a baby. I remember the fear of going to the shops and having these children maybe cry or it's awful.
Or run.
Yeah, that's right. It is. It's just it's really scary, and you can understand why people don't leave their house because it is a big change in who you are and your capacity to be able to care.
Absolutely.
But I also think it's important that we let people know it's okay if babies are crying in public.
I agree.
Babies have a right to exist in the world, and I think I say this all the time, and I probably said it in season 1, but you are entitled to a child-free life, but not a child-free world. And that is what people need to remember. Babies are allowed to cry.
They are.
They're allowed to take up
They're
space.
communicating.
Yes.
They're saying how they feel. And if they don't, then how do they get anything? I mean, it's like we all have to say what we feel, don't we?
Exactly.
So, and that's why it's so important that we are with them. You know, like let's not go, oh, they'll shut up in a minute.
Yeah,
Just
that's
leave them
right.
in the pram, they'll keep crying. Because I also see, and I'm sure you guys do, mums pushing babies through supermarkets that are screaming their heads off and they just keep going.
They're just ignoring.
And they're not stopping and going, okay, I actually need to pick you up or I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, because we know that we use our voice so much to calm our infants in other environments like sleeping, settling, feeding. We talk, don't we? But in the pram when we're in the supermarket, it's like, I have a mission. I have to get down 3 aisles and then we'll go home. But baby might be screaming that whole time. So I think it's really important that we remember what that's about, that co-regulation, like you say, Jen, around, okay, I actually need to be with you for a minute. You actually need me now. Let's just stop. But I think that then comes back to how we share this responsibility. So sometimes going with someone else to start with, if you can, is going to help you do that well together. And that also enables both adults, whoever the other adult is, to see what that feels like, you know, and share that responsibility with.
And build the empathy for each other.
And for the child. Yeah, and be with, you know, because they're not having fun when they're like, and especially if they're in a pram. Like, it's dark underneath that hood and I'm just screaming to myself, no one's hearing me, I'm not being seen. So I think it's really important that we, even if we just stop and speak and be with, and then we might have to finish what we're doing and say that. We might have to say, I know this is really hard at the moment, but we've just got to do one more thing and then we're going home, and then it'll be feed, and, you know, just that gentle talking. Yeah. Because we know our babies don't know exactly what we're saying, but they understand the tone and the way that we're speaking to them. So,
yeah.
But
I just don't want
it?
parents to feel bad for taking up space with a baby that's crying. That's allowed.
Absolutely it is,
We've talked about a lot, but one topic that often can cause a lot of worry, stress, anticipation is that returning to work. So can we touch on that a little bit?
Sure can. It's a huge stress. And I think it causes stress for so many different reasons, doesn't it? Because there's some parents want to go back. They're ready. You know, like, I miss that version of me. Not many, I will say that. But some do. They're like, okay, for example, that role is really important to me and it's meaningful to me and I really miss it. I'm very important as a parent, but I actually really miss that part of me. But more often than not, there is the sadness of leaving their infant and going back to work, and what that will be like for both of them and the family. Obviously, there's the other added pressures of finances and juggles of being a caregiver and a worker at the same time. But I think what we talk about a lot is preparing for it. So don't wait until 2 weeks before you're going back to work to think about childcare. Because it's about preparing you, but also your child. So that lead up to, and it's sad to have to think about it the minute you have a baby, that you've got to get your name down somewhere for childcare, but the reality is you do, because there's wait lists for everything. But if it's not childcare and it's going to be extended family care, having those conversations about what that looks like, feels like, because that's just as important from a confidence point of view for the caregiver. But I think if we think about the feelings that come about for the parents, it's that feeling of, I don't want to leave you. I don't want to be apart from you. I'm going to miss you. Guilt about that, but also, what will my life look like now? I mean, some of our parents may only have a short period of time at home and be missing it from the minute they go, but others might have had a year at home, and then they're like, how am I going to do this? Like, it's huge. So I think preparation is a big thing, and communication and transparency is also really important about how it feels, because we have some parents become very depressed at that thought of like, I really don't want to go back to work. And that creates that whirl of anxiety and fear, and then their babies notice the anxiety and the fear, and then we see unsettled infants that weren't unsettled before because they're feeding off that anxiety that's happening for mummy or daddy. And we need to recognise it and feel it, but also act on it. So sharing is most important, that strength of asking for help. I'm struggling with these feelings associated with it. Finding trustworthy caregivers and you being happy with that is so important, not just for yourself, but for your child. So don't feel that you have to just pick one place and say, right, that's the place. Trial it, feel it, like
go around to a few different places.
See how your infant copes in those places too. But I think as well is, we all talk about the circle of security and that relationship with our babies and holding our babies in mind all of the time, whether we're with them or without them. But I think it's how you prepare yourself for that separation, that you can say to your infant, I actually really miss you, but I'm thinking about you while I'm not with you, and how you can translate that for your child. So there's lots of beautiful things you can do in preparing your little one to do that. And so that's whether that's slowly introducing it well before you're going to go back to work, or being with them in the environment for a while and gradually reducing. Or if it's grandparents saying, this is the way that we do it at the moment. I know that you're going to do differently because you're grandparents, but can we keep these parts that work for the little person, whether that's sleep or the way they eat or, that kind of stuff. So I think it's very much about holding those anxieties as saying they're normal, but also how do we manage them and regulate them, and how do we keep everybody in the circle holding each other in mind. And if your child's a little bit older, whether they're 12 months, we know there's fun things you can do in how you do that. Whether it's that you put something in their bag that say, if you miss mummy, you can go and find this and have a look at it. There's some beautiful people, like I'm sure you guys have heard of Maggie Dent. She talks about putting a kiss in a bag. So when they're a little bit older, you kiss the little heart and put it in the bag. And if they're missing you can go and get your kiss out of the bag. There's so many beautiful things you can do that your child knows I'm with you when I'm not with you. But I think the other part of it is reunification.
I was going to say,
So when they come back to you, hold them tight. Share all those big feelings, and don't rush. I think that's the key, isn't it? Parents who are working are, okay, it's 5 o'clock, I've got to pick the child up, I've got to feed them, I've got to put them to bed, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. It's like, breathe, be with, hug, cuddle, reconnect. Maybe go to the park first. Don't rush home to do dinner, bath, bed, because really that's no time for that relationship. And it's not just about rush, it's about being with. So I think take your time and enjoy being the parent you are.
Yeah, and I wonder, a lot of daycares do like a little orientation where they might say come for a couple of hours, come for a half day. And so if you have got the time, where you're able to do that's a beautiful way because it's a shorter period of time.
Yeah.
So you've got that opportunity to do something fun afterwards, and that child is also learning that, hey, mum does come back.
She comes back.
It comes full circle.
And it's the same for you when you go to pick your little person up, because you know you're like, but it's like, oh, it's okay, breathe, push it back down for a little minute to be reunified, and then you can do this together. It's really important, isn't it? And I think as well, which adds to that, is sometimes our little people love where they go.
Yeah, I do.
And it's like, what do you mean you're not ready to come home? That's maybe a little bit later. But I think it's also going, wow, that's such a good choice I made. This place is perfect for my child.
Yeah.
You know, they're happy, their well-being is up. And they've made friends there and connections there that are so important for their future life and relationships. But I think that take that as a compliment, not a negative, because, wow, your child is so secure in their relationship with you. They separate beautifully, and they're okay if you turn up and they're not ready.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, isn't it? Yeah.
And I love, Hannah, how you said as well with the reunification is that you said, I'm so happy to see you. It wasn't, I've missed you so much.
So happy to see you.
Go straight into the positive. I'm so happy to see you. Tell me about your day.
And that's it, isn't it? What did you do today?
Yeah.
It was fun.
Instead of, that I missed you so much, which then can have like a negative kind of spin on that, being separate.
Oh, we've talked about a lot, Penny.
Yeah,
Thank you
it's
so
fun.
much for being a guest.
Oh,
Yeah, thank
my
you.
pleasure. It's been lovely.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Thanks for listening to Parenting with Ngala. The topics covered in our podcast are general in nature, and the information might not suit everyone. If you're in Western Australia and would like to chat about a specific challenge, you can talk directly to the Ngala Parenting Line by calling 9368 9368. For all other links and resources, check out the Ngala website and the show notes below. Thank you again, and see you next time.